Hello and welcome to the Dinosaw for week 23, another 7 curious, interesting things I saw last week. So let's crack on. First one is voice privacy. Now this has been gaining ground for a while now. Obviously things like Alexa and voice assistants built into TVs, etc., are the big thing. Everybody needs a voice strategy. Now maybe the fight back is starting. So the 2022 Voice Privacy Initiative has kicked off for this year. It's been running for a few years, and what this aims to do is look at ways for people to still use voice assistants but obfuscate or potentially mask voice so that actually people's privacy is maintained. Now what sort of started me down this route as well is I was looking at an app called Kintsugi, and this was about using your voice to try and figure out your mindful state or your mindfulness, whether there are any sort of things going on, and it tried to sort of meditate through it, etc. But it was all it required you to do is to give it some speech, and it would try to analyze it for your mental state essentially. Now things like let's say voice assistants, no specific platform, they hear quite a lot. They not only hear whether you're male or female, they hear your background noise, they hear your context, they can also hear whether you are angry or calm. There's a huge amount of information that is carried there. So the Voice Privacy Initiative is something that you can basically enter some sort of solution for. I thought it was really interesting how there is this voice has been a little bit maybe passed over or ignored as far as privacy is concerned. However, now it isn't. So there you go. Voice privacy, the next battleground for privacy. DALL-E 2. Now I've talked about this a little bit. So this is again the thing where you can type in some words and it will generate images for you, photorealistic images, and everybody is kind of losing their minds about this. It is absolutely amazing. Nobody's quite sure what it's going to be used for or what it's going to basically undermine, which industries are going to be out in their ears because of this. However, there was a really interesting post, it was on Twitter, by a computer PhD scientist, Giannis Doras, and basically saying that when he asked the DALL-E algorithm to generate some images, he put things like with subtitles into the actual description, and therefore DALL-E tried to create subtitles or tried to create text. Now when this text came out, it was gobbledygook, it was gibberish. But if you then try and type that text back into DALL-E and say, what is that? Draw that please. It came up with something plausible. So for instance, two farmers talking about vegetables with subtitles came up with this sort of strange, what is vicutes, for instance, and if you type in an image generated with vicutes, it's sort of vegetables. So it's like, hang on a minute. So this DALL-E algorithm has got a language where vicutes means vegetables. And likewise, if you looked at the thing at the top, it was birds, broadly speaking, flying things. Every time you type this thing in, you got flying things. Now, did a second experiment, which is whales talking about food with subtitles. If you type that back in, it came up with seafood. So that was obviously computer speak for seafood. Now, I'll put two links down below. The one on the right-hand side is actually the original tweet, and the one on the left-hand side is somebody saying, okay, let's look at this. And it turns out it's pretty much potluck what you get. So you typed in all these things again, got different things, or at least it was just a sort of a vague coincidence. So don't worry for now. It seems like the computers aren't talking to themselves with a special language. It's just a coincidence, and this gibberish just is sort of some way of tying things up in the background. But don't worry, but it was quite an interesting journey. Everybody thought computers are out to get us this week. Winnow Sense. Now this is a curious thing. It's been out a couple of years actually, but I've only just sort of come across it basically. So what this does is it tries to tackle food waste. So apparently a third of all food ends up as waste. So what this does is it has a camera and computer vision, sits above the bin in a kitchen or a cafe or wherever, and whatever you put into the bin, the food waste bin, it will scan, it will understand what it is, it knows what it is, it can understand vegetables and meats and all that sort of stuff, and therefore it says, okay, it looks like there are you know, 2 kilos of peas just been thrown into the bin just there. Is this correct? Yes, great. And what it will then start to do is it will then show you what was wasted, what was thrown away, and therefore you can adjust your strategy in your kitchen, for instance, or maybe you adjust your menus because you know these are just going to go straight in the bin, so why order them in the first place? So kind of curious. Now there's different things. They also have, you know, just basically scales that you can sit underneath the bin as well. However, saw this and thought that was kind of interesting. The world needs more of that, so there you go. Amazon are also fighting back against algorithms, a little bit like the voice thing I mentioned at the beginning. So this is about an invite-only ordering system to stop what are called sort of sniper bots. So quite a lot of the people buying stuff online, and eBay and Amazon, etc., are bots. They're sort of non-human traffic. So what they do is they see when something comes up, they're already waiting for something like a PlayStation 5 or a new Xbox or whatever. As soon as they see it listed, they're looking for this thing, they can react far quicker than we can. They buy up all the stock, and therefore it's relisted somewhere else at a higher price because now there's no more stock, and therefore the price can go up. So obviously this is not great. So what Amazon are now doing is they're putting this request invitation on certain items. So these certain items that have sort of rare stock, you request an invitation. What it then does is it goes and looks at your account. It finds out, you know, your order history when you set up the account, what you're buying, how you're paying, those sorts of things, and how much you buy. And therefore, if it checks you out as being human, you've got all the hallmarks of a human, then it will allow you to buy the product. But it gives you a 72-hour window to do that. I think you can only buy one of them as well. So it basically says, like, are you legit and are you normal? So that's what happens. So I think this is just being rolled out in, or tested at least, in the States at the moment, and can't see any reason why that wouldn't travel around the rest of the world. That's a good thing. So yeah, invite only for high, let's say, high demand items that have been known to be sniped by bots. There you go. Now, I've recently been to Canada, and I sat on the flight next to somebody who's registered blind. It was really, really exciting because we just chatted all the way, learned quite a lot. And one of the things was about credit cards, completely random, but I just thought it just stuck in my head. So I researched it, and this is the Mastercard touch card. So obviously credit cards, they're all the same shape. They all have raised numbers and stuff, which you can't read if you're blind. You can't sort of use your braille senses on those. So Mastercard have come out with these touch cards that have different shaped indents in the side of them. So if they're in your wallet, you can tell which is your credit card or your debit card or your checking account, whatever. So I just thought that was a really, really simple thing. So yeah. Other than that, it was a really interesting flight. More to come on that one. Learned quite a lot. I will endeavour to make sure that there are lots of accessibility things in these Dinosaurs. This is a cool one. Nielsen, or should I say Gracenote. Now Gracenote are traditionally the kind of the data providers, so that if, for instance, I used to work in the music industry, and if you wanted to know the top 40 from 1952, then you would go to the Gracenote library. Likewise, they supply a lot of the metadata for movies and films, what genre, whether it has images attached to it, screenshots, that sort of thing. That's what Gracenote kind of do. Now, what they're starting to report on, which is bingeability. Well, actually three things: bingeability, loyalty, and programs that are similar to the one that you're currently watching. Now, the reason they're doing this is that if you are a content distributor, a broadcaster, for instance, then you really want to know which ones of the shows that you might be putting on your roster or onto your EPG, onto your schedule, which ones are going to be the most sticky and which ones are going to actually get people to watch time and time again. So it's really useful for your essentially your acquisition and also your retention, more importantly. So they're now adding essentially more data to their database so that you can quite easily spot the shows that have got that sticky factor. So there you go. So it's just going that one step further into data, actually trying to tell you which ones are the ones that will get you more and more views. So well done, Gracenote. That's kind of cool. And finally, this is kind of a, we kind of knew this, but it's really good to see this now and again. This was actually a post by Sam on the Wendover channel. The Wendover channel has a great videos on it, just about everything. Check them out now and again. So this was sent to me by my friend Yop, saying, hey, did you know this? Maybe you should try that in your Dinosaws. Unbeknownst to me, I've actually probably put a few typos in here, but it doesn't work for me. So the trick here is you put a really obvious typo in it, and I've seen a few of these now. I've been spotting this. I've seen a few of this week. For instance, people would say, hey, here I am in London. You're clearly not in London, you're in Manchester. People then say, wait a minute, you're not in London, you're in Manchester. Those comments are really, really important for engagement. So the more people engage, obviously the more your video will probably get shown. Now this is a trick that is probably as old as social media. However, it's really interesting to see it's A, still alive, and B, I kind of knew about it, but I didn't really think about it that much, so now I do. So that's the thing. So if you see people sort of gaining the system by putting typos in there or saying purposely inaccurate but essentially non-important facts within the video, that's why they're doing it. So you have been warned, but there you go. With that, we are done. Hopefully a short one this week. If you liked it, give us a like, show it to somebody interesting, somebody awesome, and I will see you next week.